We are going to write a method to insert a node after a specific node. We need to give 4 things to this method. It has 4 parameters. It needs to know the head and the tail of the list. It needs to know the new node and the current node. And current node is the node after which we are going to insert. So current node is going to point to a particular node, and we're going to put this new node after it. I put the code here so that we can trace through it. And the first special case is if head is null. If head is null, we don't have a list. So what do we do then? Well, we make head point to new node and tail point to new node, so that in fact we've created ourselves a new list consisting just of this node. Done. Else. And another special case is tail, and it's only special because I want to put something after tail, and then I'm going to have to move this tail pointer on. So if current node is tail, so that means that we are saying, okay, I want to insert this new node after tail. So what happens then? Tail.next is new node. So tail.next is here. This is going to point to our new node. And then tail equals new node. So instead of tail being this one, it's going to be this one. So we can see here that we had our original list, and then we tacked on the end this new node, and we are reassigned tail to point to this new node. But what happens if we want to insert somewhere in the middle of our list? So I'm at the last else here, and I want to put this new node in after current node. So new node.next is current node.next. Current node.next is this node, which means that this points here, and then current node.next is new node. So this now points here and not here. It's important that you get these in the right order. If you try to do it not in the right order, you have a problem, because as soon as we reassign this pointer current node.next, we have no way of getting to this node unless we maybe made a new pointer that pointed to it. But without that, if you interchange these two, then you would say current node.next is new node. So this now points here and not here. And now you want to say new node.next. You want it to point to this one, but you have no way of referencing this node. So you need to be real careful the order that you do things in. And it's really easy to do these in your head and not realize that you are making these kinds of mistakes. So new node.next is current node.next. New node.next points here, and then current node.next points to new node, and we have new node inserted after current node. So let's look at the code. So the first thing I want you to notice is that there are 2 methods here called list insert after. The first one, which I've commented out, returns a void. Takes the 4 parameters, head, current node, new node, and tail, but returns void. And this is directly from Zybooks. So if you do not return the head in Java, then if you alter the head, that is not reflected back to main. And so if, say, this is an empty list and you are putting your new node in at the head of the list, then that new list will not be given back to main. Before you get all upset and say that Zybooks made a mistake, I'm going to remind you that Zybooks is language independent, and there are many languages that will in fact return the head as the parameter. So the head is given to the method as a parameter, and if any change is made, that change will be reflected back. However, Java is not one of those languages. So if we want to alter the head and give it back to main, we have to actually return it. And so I copied it and I left this here so you can see that it's exactly the same, except it returns the head. And there's the return at the end. So the only difference is that this method returns the head. And let's see what we did here. We started out making ourselves a little list with 11, -34, and 17.3. And we printed it. So let's just comment all this out. And run it. And you should be able to see 11, -34, and 17.3 is coming from this print list on line 28. Then we said in these lines here that we are going to insert a node containing 5 after tail. So we expect to see 11, -34, 17.3, and then 5. And here is our output with our 5 after the tail. So now let's make sure that we can insert something after the head. And I'm going to insert a 7 after the head. Do this by creating a new node, saying the current node is the head, that's the one I want to insert after, and then passing everything to this method. And we can see here 11, 7, -34. So the 7 came after the head. The head was 11. Initially it was 11, -34. Let's just check that. 11, -34. And I put my 7 in after the 11. So we were able to insert after the head. This is where we inserted the 5 after the tail. Well, so far so good. We could do after head and we could do it after tail. So let's look at this. Now we're going to put a 9 after the node containing the -34. So the -34 is somewhere in the middle. We're going to stick a node with a 9 in after it. So we make ourselves a new node with a 9 in it. We have to find the node with the -34. So I'm going to start my current node at head, hop into a while loop, and I'm going to move current node on until we will get out of this loop when the item in the current node is a -34. So we will get out of it when current node points to the node containing negative 34. So current node is going to point to the node containing the negative 34, and I want to put this 9 in after it. So here is my method, head, tail, my current node, which is going to be pointing to the node containing negative 34, and my new node points to the one containing a 9. And then I'm going to print it out. So now that was my initial head, the 7 we inserted after it, the negative 34, the 9 we just inserted after the negative 34, 17.3 was my initial tail, and then I put the 5 in, and the 5 became the new tail. The node containing the 5 became the new tail. The last thing I want to test is whether I can put something into initially empty list. So I'm going to insert a node containing a 10 into an initially empty list, meaning one where the head is null. So I'm going to set the head and the tail to be null. Here is my new node. Here is my current node pointing to head, which is null. And now I am going to call my method and then print my new list. And here is the results of printing my new list. It's just printing a 10 because that's all I have in this new list. So please work your way through this method here. Understand that in Java you need to return the head. If I had not returned the head here, then we would have had a problem trying to insert. Well, we wouldn't have had a problem trying to insert into the list, but we would have had a problem that when we returned to main and tried to print it, it would have printed null. It would not have known the new head of the list.